And still, classic physique champ, 4-time Olympian Chris Bumstead.
Here's a quick recap on the men's. Well, for me, it's not a recap. This is actually what stood out to me the most for men's bodybuilding classic physique. We're going to start off with Chris Bumstead. As you can see there from the thumbnail, there's a few things that I want to bring out. Obviously, he got a hammy torn one of his first years competing for the Mr. Olympia. I think it was after his first year competing, first or second. And then he most recently tweaked his quad. It looked like it was his left quad, as you can see in the picture. But also in this last Olympia, one thing that stood out and what people are talking about is his bicep. It is bigger. So a lot of people, I'm not sure, people are thinking injury and whatnot. I'm not sure, but it definitely got bigger from 1 year to the next. You can kind of tell the difference, but the lines got blurred. And even the artery that's underneath it, that artery underneath his bicep vein, his left arm, is typically very strong. It protrudes very far. So the fact that it's not even showing much, I think he's got some inflammation. I think that's actually an injection site gone wrong. This is not popular opinion. This is just my opinion. But I think he either was using some kind of SEO, where it's like a site enhancing oil. Potentially, probably not though. That's most likely not, but it's something like that where he's just taking one of his injections, whether it's Winstrol or something like that, but he took it in the bicep and he might have nicked something like a vein, which this stuff is like actually not uncommon. It happens. A lot of people shoot up areas where they want it to show bigger, obviously, because it is oil. It's literal oil, and so it'll get inflamed. But the bad part of that is it does get bigger, but you blur some lines. So that's what happens a lot with shoulders, and then glutes and stuff if you overshoot them. So that bicep, I'm not sure if he was just shooting just incorrectly the morning of, the day before, a couple days before, and just stayed inflamed, or he had done it too recently or too much throughout the off season and during the season. But besides that, his quad tears, hammies, he's still holding up well. He looks very well conditioned. This diet prep wasn't anything ridiculous as far as like calories, where he's done bikini girl calories where he's eating like 1,700 calories before with Ian. With Honey Rambod, he stayed pretty low, but he was never super low. Still eating very, very clean cod if you saw his videos, but he wasn't like sacrificing size, obviously. And in fact, according even to the pictures here, you can see his quads, they did have some girth to them. Like every muscle within the quads, they did grow a little bit. So his legs got bigger. He looks more the X frame. So the X frame is kind of what he's doing with that lat spread. So it's when the upper part is like shooting out to the left and right, and so are the legs to the left and right. And his quads definitely got better. So his X frame itself looked better. And his arms obviously got bigger. His back is more developed. So that's the cool part about C-Bum. But with his injuries, he's definitely defeatable. So keep that in mind that he can be defeated. Now, going up with the next big shocker is Terence Ruffin. What happened to him? As you can see here, he looks lean. He's conditioned. But for some reason, his appearance doesn't seem so much that. In fact, from what the judges saw, they put him all the way at 6th place because of the lack of conditioning, the detail. So typically, he may have straighted glutes and looks good from the glutes and the back, but his legs were like super blurred. There wasn't much going on there. So not sure what happened there. Might have been because of he was a little bit heavier and had to drastically lose weight, and so he was holding on to water because he was like running up and down the stairs, supposedly. I'm not sure. But his quads, his legs, and even his abdominals were just kind of blurred compared to what they usually, because he's usually comes on point and he shreds, so it's very unusual. It could have been stress. Who knows what happened? He's in a relationship, so I don't know. But he definitely came off wrong. I don't think he'd be shooting his quads. That's kind of like an older thing. Most people shoot up your glutes because your quads are far too vascular, so you're more likely to hit a nerve or veins. So yeah, I think he obviously was just stressed and just came off, and that's why he got placed behind almost everyone else. Brian did come improved. He did very well. I mean, this guy's like 40 something years old, and he's still up there top 4, so that's pretty impressive. You have there Mike is super impressive. Like, I couldn't stop looking at him because his shape is so pretty, so clean. He's got that young muscle, so it's nothing like freaky dense like Chris, but it's very young and pretty. So his shape is really pretty, so he's a super Mr. Olympia if he keeps it up. Urs came in too depleted. I think he peaked too soon. He just wasn't able to gain ground again, like that wow factor, because he was just still too stringy. That look, even though he's extremely by far the most conditioned, he still needs size when he's competing against Chris Bumstead and Dino. On the contrary, why Dino did so well, because he's usually pushing for that conditioning too, because he has to go down quite a lot of weight to make it. But in this case, they filled him up perfectly, where he was still conditioned, but then very, very lean. So he looked great. He looked full. He looked obviously comparable to Chris Bumstead. Very, very good. It was awesome to see those two, because they're kind of both taller. They're both bigger. They kind of take... And in fact, when you see there with Terrence, when they were next to Dino and Chris Bumstead, like, your eyes just kind of go away from Terrence because that detail's lacking, and he's so little looking when he's not so shredded. So your eyes instantly go to Dino, Urs, and C-Bum. So hence why they were the first ones. So as far as Gabriel from Brazil, why he didn't place so high, it was obviously his conditioning. He was a little off. He looks amazing. He was looking amazing coming to the show, but just not conditioned enough. He's a mini C-Bum. He's C-Bum 2.0. So one day I think he will be fighting Urs and Dino and those guys. And then Wesley Vissers. Congrats to him. This is a guy with a big waist like Arnold comparatively to all the men's classic bodybuilders. And he made it top 8. So he's top 10 in the world. This is a guy who keeps on trying. He's always been kind of overlooked. But he worked on the one thing they told him to, 2 or 3 years in a row, which is conditioning and his legs. His legs can still do some work, obviously, but the conditioning, so there was more detail in his legs, that definitely brought him up to top 8. And this was a thick lineup. Obviously, they got to do something, I think, to not have 65 competitors again. So I think, from my understanding, they are working on something to make it so it's going to be harder to qualify for the Olympia this coming year. That's just hearsay. We'll find out here soon enough. Regardless, just some honorable mentions. You have the winners of men's physique there. You also have the winners of there was a lot of competitors, and I don't follow as much as the others as I should probably, especially if you're coming here for just like some overall bodybuilding. But I like to stick to what I like because I study it more, right? So anyways, that's my take on that. As far as Big Ramy, this is on men's open side, but Big Ramy made an apology video. He's not retiring. He will be competing and next year and trying again. We're going to see if he really does have nerve damage, if it's reversible, his lats, and then his arms. I think his arms just due to over dieting. His lats, so we're going to find out, and he needs to find a different spot to inject instead of his glutes, because if you remember, his glutes were just over injected. His poor butt. And hopefully, his legs and his calves and arms can, increase again. And once again, his abs, if he gets not as blurry, that's the biggest thing, is detail in his abs, so he doesn't look as thick and wide. So there's the quick information on men's classic 2022 Mr. Olympia. C-Bum takes it yet again. That's a 4-peat for him. And Terrence, honestly, I hope he does better next year, because I really do like the dude, and his physique is beautiful. He just has to hit it right, and it goes to show it's super hard to hit the mark in bodybuilding. It is super hard to dial it down to perfection. There's so many variables in there: stress, water, sodium, all the electrolytes, on top of the gear, on top of all the diuretics you're taking. Your body's gonna have different effects to it, so it's quite the science to get it right. And then the food, you can't do anything crazy. So there's so many variables going to its sleep that it's really a guessing game, and that's why this Olympia was so good, because man, what a surprise. So congrats to the winners, and hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always,